Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the main man, Martin, to preview Everton versus Aston Villa. Yes, football is back after the international break, and what a game! What a game to preview as well to come up this weekend. Before we get into it, make sure you are hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've just passed 6,000 subscribers. You know this drill. We're on our road to 10,000 subscribers. You can help us get there, so make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and get your comments in, your thoughts on the starting lineup, your thoughts on the scoreline. What is the score going to be? We want to see your predictions as well, because we're going to get into it in this preview. Martin, great to see you, mate, and as you just shown us there, very, very excited for football to return this weekend.
Yeah, thank God when you're Irish. It's great to have some bit of football back. Even Shamrock Rovers around tonight, which I'm going to watch in the cup. So great to have football back. Don't even want to know what happened during international break. I like to think I'm Scottish before I'm Irish now when it comes to that sort of crack. But yeah, delighted to have football back. Talk all things Aston Villa.
Yes, exactly, mate, exactly. And what a game to come to, because we're going to get into the various players that are going to be linked in this game and are going to feature in this game. But Everton versus Aston Villa, it's a big game anyway. But I think with the situation that Villa are in right now, with the stadium, the new stadium that Everton have got, it's going to be set up for a bit of a humdinger, this one.
Yeah, you've got a mixture of a few things, haven't you? Considering when you have the international break, you kind of get the feeling that is Everton momentum's kind of going to stop because they have been on a good bit of form, or is Aston Villa's form going to kick on, because that always seems to happen in the national break. You see teams being on form and bang international break, and then they kind of stopped because momentum hasn't been kept going. And for some teams like ourselves, it's been absolutely perfect to get international break, regroup, look at a few different ideas, and hopefully go again. And then we have a very good record against Everton away from home.
Yes.
We've yet to concede, I think, the last 4 games against Everton as well. So, really, that's hopefully all signs for what we're looking for, hopefully, in 3 points. But that being said, they still have their new home ground, which has looked really good. They played really well. The atmosphere looks incredible. So, there's going to be a mixture of things. But I'm kind of glad to get this fixture early as opposed to later down the season.
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't checked out the In the Away End opposition preview, I had Mike on from Blue Boys Network, and he was talking about the kind of stadium and the atmosphere, and he actually also said that because the atmosphere is so good, because of the acoustics of the ground, it's actually really good for the away fans. So he said, Villa will bring a good away fan contingent. They'll obviously be singing. So I think it's really important for the Villa fans to get behind the team because they will be heard. And as he said, it's only their second or third game in this stadium. So they're going to want to make it a bit of a fortress. But Aston Villa could utilise that as a bit of a kind of thing to work on to kind of make them a bit more tense and hopefully quieten down that crowd in that new stadium.
Yeah, exactly. And as we've seen in that stadium, it's quite a big pitch to opposed to what Everton are used to in previous years, playing just a tight pitch in Goodison. So, and having a big pitch for us kind of suits our game. So maybe the pitch could play into our hands. But that being said, all them Scousers are quite vocal about their club and passionate. So that's going to be getting behind them. So I just think this is going to be a really exciting game for me. And hopefully some of our new signings can kick into it.
Yes, and you mentioned that, mate, with regards to the new signings and also with regard to 1 or 2 players coming back from international duty in hopefully quite good form, a bit more refreshed. I'm talking John McGinn, Yuri Tillemans, Morgan Rogers, Ezri Konsa. And then if you sprinkle in Harvey Elliott, Jadon Sancho and potentially Victor Lindelof, is there a little bit to be excited about for Aston Villa from an Aston Villa perspective?
Yeah, I think there is quite a bit to be excited about. There was a few new signings who came in deadline day, and I think international break came at the perfect time for them new signings, to gel, train with the squad, get used to facilities, and before you go to a match, because sometimes you might see you sign a player and all of a sudden there's a match that weekend and you're hoping them to make an impact. But I think this is
Yes.
quite different, that these are players that have played in the Premier League, so get them used to the ground, get used to the area, settle in, and then this week obviously be match ready, and that's fallen perfectly for these lads. And I think that they could make an impact. Now I think Harvey Elliott is going to make the biggest impact for me because I think he's the one who's been match fit and ready for quite some time. Training high intensity with Liverpool, and he's obviously had some games from benches and everything else in the pre-season with Liverpool and the European Under-21 Championship. So he's going to be match fit and ready. The likes of Sancho and Victor Lindelof, who hasn't really been training because Victor Lindelof's obviously been on a retransfer. So he's been doing his own sort of fitness. Sancho, you could say the same, albeit being with Man United. But that being said, he was training on his own due to the fact that he wanted to leave. So he's not exactly match fit and ready either.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think Harvey Elliott is going to have the biggest impact for now. But hopefully down the line, Sancho and Lindelof can make some sort of an impact.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get your predicted lineup and kind of how you think that Villa might approach this game, which would be interesting to get your
Mm.
thoughts on. Everton, they've had a good start to the season, as you indicated there. Maybe the international break has come at the wrong time for them. But you look at the attacking options that they have, Njai, Keenan Dewsbury Hall, Beto, who's a bit of a handful, but obviously the one man, Jack Grealish, current Premier League Player of the Month. It's a pretty formidable front four, and they seem to have gelled quite well to the start of the season.
Yeah, it seems to work well, and I'm kind of glad to be honest to see Grealish playing so well. Not every player is suited for playing for big clubs, and in Grealish's case, that seemed to come to light. Obviously, he did one good year in the year that the Man City won the treble, but
Mm-hmm.
after that, he didn't really have a shoe in, did he? Because Pep Guardiola
No.
likes to chop and change so much, in terms of what he wants to do, because he doesn't want people being settled in the team. And in a way, that can be good for him, but not good for players. And that's proven to be the case for Jack Grealish. And he's come to Everton, like a breath of fresh air, as you could say, different surroundings, new stadium, seems to fall in perfectly for him. And it's World Cup year, and he seems to be proven so far, in my opinion, if I was thinking about it if I was an English fan, that he should be on the plane to go to the World Cup because he's been playing out of his skin. He's got 4 Premier League assists. He looks like the Grealish that played with Villa so many years ago, doesn't he? When people were comparing him to
Mm.
an Eden Hazard, and that he just seems to be flying now, and he's going to be the main threat because he'll know our players. He knows the back four, so he's going to know a few weaknesses here and there and try to exploit it.
Mm. Do you think Villa should be concerned? Do you think we should be worried about the quality, I say it, moving forward, particularly Everton have got, and obviously you match that up with, I guess, their defensive organisation, and we haven't exactly been great at creating chances at the moment. So, yeah, should we be a little bit concerned?
Yeah, I think we should. I think last season and previous years before, you wouldn't be too concerned about Everton's attacking threat just because they weren't exactly the most exciting team for going forward, but they were always solid at the back and in midfield. This season now, they've seemed to add real quality to our attack. Obviously, they hadn't die already, and obviously then adding Dewsbury Hall, who's playing in the 10. You've got Jack Grealish playing out wide, and Beto seems to be playing very well. And Barry, who's
Mm-hmm.
another player who seems to be playing well, hasn't got off the mark just yet in goals, but he looks like a real handful in terms of bullying defenders, and that's always something you want. And as a typical Everton player, as you could say, uh, so I think there is a lot to be quite worried about because we haven't exactly been great going forward ourselves, and defensively we haven't looked as confident as an Everton would be because they've got some real physical presence in a Jake O'Brien, James Tarkowski, you know, McKin, who's their left back, the Ukrainian fella, um,
Mikalenko.
Mikalenko. He's very good as well. So they've got real quality now, Everton, and this could be a good season for them. To hopefully finish top half in the Premier League. But I just think that for ourselves, we've got a lot to be worried about because if we're not on our game, I think Everton will turn us over.
It's a real tricky one for me. It is. It is. I'm in agreement with you there. That's not to say I'm not hopeful, but
Mm.
there's a lot of things that are indicating to me that we really need to turn a lot around in our game, and I'm hoping that some of the noise around the transfer window and sort of players that maybe had a bit of an uncertain time can kind of really knuckle down and get their heads down and get moving again, because we certainly need that to happen. And whether that be, I'm not going to get into score predictions yet, but whether that be just, getting a result
Yeah.
and a decent performance to something to build on, I think that would be something helpful. Before we get your predicted lineup on the screen, Unai's had his press conference. Obviously, Emi Martinez, he's mentioned him being focused on the game, training very well, and everything like that. He's obviously only
Mm.
been back a couple of days. First of all, how do you envisage Emi Martinez getting himself back into the side, and do you think he just he needs to just come back in and get his head down?
Well, look, I've kind of said, obviously in the previous episode on the fans forum this week, and if you haven't seen it, please go ahead and look at it. Uh, that I said, I think Emi Martinez needs to prove himself again, because he was only a second choice target for Man United. And if he was the one who wanted to move, I'd say, why miss the Crystal Palace game for the sake of that reason? Why didn't you turn to Unai Emery? Says, I still want to play because I'm only a second choice. I'm not the first choice. So your mind shouldn't be swayed, in my opinion, considering all the accolades and achievements that he's achieved now in his career at Aston Villa, albeit it might be for Argentina, but he's got them due to his performances at Aston Villa as well. So, but that being said, I do think Unai Emery will pretty
Yeah,
much go ahead and start
yeah,
Emi Martinez. And I don't blame him, to
completely
be
agree.
honest,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
because at the same time, he's still our number one choice
yeah.
goalkeeper. Marco Bozzato is still number two. Proctor is still going to be third choice. So you're not going to put Emi
No.
behind the two of them or even one of them. So, of course, he's going to start because he has the most presence in our back line.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, mate. Totally agree. And as we said the other night, saves a penalty from Jack Grealish or something like that, and he'll be all
I'll,
back
I'll,
to the
I'll forgive
hero, back to the
absolutely everything that
hero.
happened. Dead right.
Exactly, exactly. I guess slightly more concerned is the fact that Amadou Onana and Boubacar Kamara are still injured. I think Ross
Yeah.
Barkley's got a bit of a personal issue as
Yeah, he's
well.
personal problems at the minute, yeah.
So it doesn't leave us too much option in that kind of midfield position, does it? And we want to get those players fit as quickly as possible, don't we?
Yeah, you want to get them players back fit as quick as possible. Obviously, the Bologna is kind of the target for Onana and Boubacar Kamara, and if so, I completely welcome it because you don't want to rush players back from injury, of course. But that being said, maybe had we gotten like a defensive midfielder in deadline day, probably to put everybody at a bit of ease and a bit more flexibility, you would welcome it. But that being said, Lamar Bogart is someone who plays in midfield as well. So we
Yeah.
kind of still have that little bit of depth, but he's not a complete starter.
Yeah. Well, let's get your starting lineup in, because you kind of teased the idea of Harvey Elliott playing a big part, and he's forming part of that midfield. I know it's
Mm.
not positionally or formation wise potentially exactly how Unai Emery was set up. That's more to do with the graphics. No fault of. So no comments on Martin with the formation, please. This is how we set it up in terms of the graphics. But yeah, talk us through. It's just interesting that kind of back five is just so like it's like 2021 all over again, isn't it? But yeah,
Yeah.
just talk us through your choices.
Well, look, Emi Martinez, of course, is going to pick himself as much as I have different opinions at this minute, but he picks himself. I think Luca Digne, I think, is perfect for this game for the fact that he's going to be playing against pacey wingers, and we all know Luca Digne's experience against pacey wingers seems to do really well because Ian Matson could leave himself exposed and trying to catch up, where Luca Digne will have that ability to kind of sit back and say, right, I'm not going to go forward now because the winger is a bit too high. Tyrone Mings and Konza, I think Mings is perfect for this game to start because if we're going to have a real physical presence in either Barry and Beto, you need a Tyrone Mings in there to kind of be able to battle that. Konza picks himself. He's played really well for England, so hopefully his confidence is high. Matty Cash being available. Obviously, at the start of the week, I probably would have put Cons in right back and Victor Lindelof into centre half due to the injury. But when Unai Emery's press conference came in that Matty Cash is fine, he's been training and he's available for selection, kind of leads to me that he's going to start this game. Tielemans and McGinn, the double pivot that picked itself at this minute.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's something that is quite a tricky thing at all. I think that's quite easy to predict. And then you got your front four now, albeit I know the graphics, this is just what it is, but I just think that Rodgers and Elliott are going to almost play as like a double cam sort of way, and hopefully Marlon can play in behind Ollie Watkins. But I think Marlon might suit the in behind Ollie Watkins role, and hopefully Harvey Elliott plays on the right, because I think Harvey Elliott is a great player on the right-hand side. We've seen it before for Liverpool. He likes to cut in, get a shot from distance, when he scored some wonderful goals as well. So hopefully this could be the same situation, and playing against Everton as well. So he knows how much it is to play against a club when he's played against them in a Merseyside derby. So he's going to want to prove himself for Aston Villa. And hopefully Rodgers can pick up a bit of form again, because he looked really good there for England against Andorra, and he looked really, really sharp against Serbia in their 5-0 win. So hopefully Rodgers brings that form back, because now all the transfers is over. Rumour mill should be gone by now, so players having their heads turned should be gone. They should all now be focusing on this. Of course, January is going to come around, but that being said, everyone should now be fully focused between now and the end of the season.
Absolutely. I don't think I really disagree with any of that. I'm hopeful that Elliott starts. Maybe a case for Emi Buendia potentially after his performance in the second half against Crystal Palace.
I was on the mind of Emi Buendia, but I just have a feeling that Unai Emery prefers him as sort of an impact player, because when it comes to me predicting my lineup, I'm always trying to put my mind as an Unai Emery. So I'm trying to put myself in there and kind of think, right, if it was me, this is what I do, but I'm not the Aston Villa manager, so I kind of need to think like him. And I feel like Emery loves Buendia as like an impact player, someone who's a bit of a fresh leg and tried to change the game a little bit, which he's tried to do every time he's come on. So we can only be appreciative of that fact. And I know you've always kind of said, oh, he just runs around, that's not enough for you. But not only has he done that bit run around, he's actually getting a lot of good balls off.
Yeah, I was impressed. Yeah, I was impressed with him against Crystal Palace. I mean, the bar was pretty low, but he in terms of performance levels of the rest of the players, but he was actually wanting to get on the board. He gave us a bit of impetus, he gave us a bit of drive, and he actually had a bit of quality off the back of his passing and his movement. So the goals that we conceded and the momentum that he created, I know the goals that we conceded were certainly not a consequence of the momentum that he created, because he certainly tried his best, and he put himself, like you say, in the mindset of either potentially being a start, but also being a sort of key contributor off the bench if that's required. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you there, mate. I want to see like players getting in the thick of it. You know what I mean? I want to see. Marlon, when he got his start the other day, he was just too much on the fringes. I know he wasn't. I know he's been asked to maybe stay out on the right, but you want to see players getting in the thick of things. Ollie Watkins as well. I want to see him kind of get involved in the game a bit more. Like, I understand that Unai Emery has a particular way and a particular style, and he asks players to do particular things. But ultimately, when you're on the pitch and the game's going as it's going, sometimes it needs a player to take the game by the scruff of the neck, take matters into their own hands, do something slightly different. And I feel like that's what we need. We've got enough experienced players to be able to be like, look, I'm going to take it on my shoulders. And it's felt like the first 3 games that no one's been prepared to do that. No one's been prepared to take responsibility. And I just want one or two of the players to really do that now moving forward.
And I think a player that should be doing that, in my opinion, is Morgan Rodgers. He was the young player of the year last season. And of course, he should be that one to say, right, give me the ball, I'm going to make something happen. Because if he's going to be this so-called next £100 million player plus, he should be the one taking the ball and say, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I can do. Give me the ball and I'll make absolutely everything happen. But then again, that being said, I have a real good feeling Harvey Elliott is going to try and do that as well. I think Harvey Elliott will turn around and say, give me the ball. I have something to prove in this Premier League. Give me the ball. I'll do something. So if we've got multiple players wanting to look for the ball every single time and make something happen, then I think we'll be fine for the rest of the season. But if we keep falling into this trap of going 1-0 down and heads are down, then it's like, oh, forget about it. That's when we're in real trouble, because we
Yeah.
need strong mentality, and I really hope now that we can start it this weekend.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well, before we get your score prediction, and please in the comments let us know what your score predictions are. Make sure you've hit that like button and the subscribe button. We're on the road to 10k, just past 6,000. Thank you so much for your support. Do you agree with Martin's lineup as well, and any changes that you might make? Martin, massive game coming up. So good. I'm going to be there as well. I'm looking forward to seeing that stadium. I'm looking forward to getting the crowd going again in that away end. And what do you think the score is going to be? And will we score? And if we score, who is going to get the goal or goals?
I'm gonna go with us to get a scruffy 1-0 win. Uh, I just think Everton are going to try and impose, but I just think with it such a big pitch they have, it kind of suits us. But that being said, I hope we can contain them. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 win, and I'm going to say Harvey Elliott. I think Harvey Elliott is going to get a goal from distance, hopefully. Please
A
God.
debut goal after signing from their rivals Liverpool, and he comes to Villa
Yeah.
and rub their faces in it after getting the winning goal. I like it. I like the sound of it. I am going to sit firmly on the fence on this one. I think I hinted at it. I want a good performance. I want a solid performance to build on. I think it's going to be a tough, tough game in a tough atmosphere with Jack Grealish and all of the things surrounding him. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think
Mm,
I think we'll get a draw, and I think Ollie will get off the mark, and I think that'll hopefully set us in a decent, solid position to go into the Carabao Cup next week against Brentford, and then the league game against Sunderland, and hopefully we can sort of turn the corner and start
yeah.
building some momentum. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Villa can get the victory? Are you confident going into this match? We want to know all of your views. Martin, thank you very much for jumping on. We will be back with instant reaction. I might even do it outside the ground if the internet is good enough and the light is good enough. You will see. And if we win, I will certainly do it.
Well, you
If we
certainly will,
lose,
regardless of what's going on.
if we lose, I'll probably do it as well. I'll go
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, look out for that. Lions Raw match reaction will obviously not be straight after the game, but we'll do that potentially Sunday as well. Hopefully get some guests on as well to get their thoughts as well. We'll have talking tactics. Everything will be back to normal from next week. Fans forum, match preview for Brentford, all of that jazz. So stay tuned to the channel. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.